All right, get ready to dive deep into Singapore business travel because we have an awesome guide here, and we're going to transform you into a Singapore Paravan.
Sounds exciting.
It is. And forget just, those surface level tips like what to pack and, visa stuff. We're going way deeper.
Right into the heart of it.
Yeah, like those little cultural things that can really make or break a deal.
Oh, yeah, like, handing someone a document with the wrong hand.
Oh, tell me about it. Imagine thinking you're being polite and then boom, major faux pas.
Yeah, those little details matter, especially in a place like Singapore where, business etiquette is so important.
Absolutely. And we'll definitely get to that story later. But first things first, let's talk about getting around in Singapore because I know that's probably top of mind for anyone planning a business trip there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you'll be happy to hear that Singapore has an amazing public transport system.
Oh, good, good. So no need to worry about like crazy traffic or anything.
Well, there's always some traffic, but it's very manageable, especially if you stick to the MRT.
MRT, what's that?
The Mass Rapid Transit, or MRT for short, it's basically their subway system, super efficient and affordable, especially if you're mainly in the CBD.
CBD. Okay, so that's the central business district, right, where most of the offices are.
Exactly. So if your meetings are mostly in that area, you're golden. The MRT will get you anywhere you need to go.
Okay, MRT for the CBD. Got it. But what about those times when, you need to go somewhere that's not on the MRT line, or maybe time is really tight?
Well, for that, you have a couple of options. There are buses, which cover a more extensive network than the MRT.
Okay, so buses are good for, like, getting to those places that the MRT doesn't reach.
Exactly. They can be a bit slower, though, especially during rush hour.
Right, traffic can be a bit of a pain, even in a well-organized city like Singapore, I imagine.
Yeah, it's something to be mindful of. And then, of course, there's always ride-hailing apps like Grab.
Like Uber, but in Singapore.
Pretty much. Grab is huge there, but there are other options too, like Gojek or Tada.
Okay, so many choices. It's good to know we have options. But speaking of choices, this guide mentions something called the Singapore Tourist Pass. What's the deal with that?
Ah, yeah, the Singapore Tourist Pass. It's basically a travel card that gives you unlimited rides on buses and the MRT for a certain number of days.
Oh, interesting. So if you're planning on doing a lot of traveling around the city, it could be a good deal.
Exactly. It comes in 1, 2, or 3-day options, so you can choose what works best for your trip.
Okay, that makes sense. So if our listener is in Singapore for, let's say, 3 days packed with meetings all over the city, that pass sounds like a no-brainer.
Yeah, definitely worth considering. It'll save you the hassle of buying individual tickets all the time,
And probably some money, too.
most likely. Especially since it includes the MRT, which can get a bit pricey if you're making multiple trips each day.
Okay, so we've got the lowdown on the Singapore Tourist Pass. But even with all these transport options, I bet traffic can still be a bit of a headache, right? Especially in a bustling city like Singapore.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Rush hour can be pretty crazy, so it's good to be prepared.
So, any tips on how to avoid those peak traffic times?
Definitely. The guide suggests trying to schedule your travel outside of those peak hours, like, between 7 and 9 a.m. and 5 to 7 p.m.
Oh, so the usual rush hour madness, pretty much like anywhere else in the world.
Pretty much. And whenever possible, opt for the MRT over buses or taxis. The MRT is underground, so it's not affected by traffic at all.
Smart move. Okay, so if you absolutely have to travel during peak hours, the MRT is your best bet.
Exactly. And there are always handy apps you can use to check real-time traffic
Oh
conditions.
yeah, like Google Maps or something.
Yeah, Google Maps is great. And there's also a local app called LTA Traffic News.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. So with a little planning and some strategic app usage, we can conquer those Singapore streets.
Exactly. No need to get stuck in traffic when you have all these awesome options at your disposal.
Okay, so we've got our transport strategy sorted. Now let's talk about where we'll be resting our heads after those long days of meetings.
Ah, yes, accommodation. And this is where things get interesting because it's not just about finding a place to sleep, it's about choosing a space that supports your work-life balance, even on a business trip.
I love that. So it's not just about crashing in any old hotel room.
Right, think about it. You're in a new city, you're working hard, and you want to make the most of your downtime too.
Absolutely. So what kind of options are we talking about here?
Well, they talk about the classic business hotels like, the Marina Bay Sands with that incredible rooftop infinity pool or the Pan Pacific, known for its luxurious amenities and central location.
Oh, those sound fancy. But I'm guessing they come with a fancy price tag, too.
Yeah, they can be on the pricier side, especially if you're on a longer trip.
Right, that makes sense. So what's the alternative?
Hmm.
If you're on a tighter budget, or maybe you're staying for a longer period.
Well, they highlight serviced apartments as a great option, especially for longer stays.
Serviced apartments. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So basically, it's like a blend of a hotel and a private apartment. You get more space, a kitchen, laundry facilities, all the comforts of home.
Yeah, that sounds lovely. Especially if you're away from home for a while.
Exactly. And they're often more cost-effective than hotels for longer stays.
Okay, that makes sense. So you get more space, more amenities, and it's easier on the wallet.
Exactly. It's like having your own little home away from home.
Perfect. But wouldn't you say that regardless of whether you go for a swanky hotel or a cozy serviced apartment, location is still king?
Oh, absolutely. Location is everything, especially on a business trip where time is precious.
Makes sense. You don't want to be wasting time commuting back and forth.
Exactly. And the guide stresses the importance of choosing accommodation that's strategically located, near your meetings, near key business areas.
Okay, so location, location, location. But Singapore is a pretty big city. How do you even begin to choose the right area?
Well, the guide gives you a head start by highlighting a few key areas. We've already mentioned the CBD, which is the heart of the business district.
Right, the central business district, lots of offices, lots of meetings.
Exactly. Then there's Orchard Road, which is like their famous shopping and dining street.
Oh, so if you want to be close to the action, Orchard Road is the place to be.
Pretty much. And for a more, vibrant mix of business and leisure, there's the Bugis area.
Boogies. Okay, I'm not familiar with that one.
It's close to the city hall and has a more local vibe, lots of cool shops and restaurants.
That's interesting. So basically, there's something for everyone, depending on your priorities and your budget, of course.
Exactly. And the guide encourages you to do your own research and explore the different areas to find what suits you best.
Okay, so we've covered transport and accommodation. Now let's talk about the fun stuff, food.
Ah, yes, the food. Singapore is a foodie's paradise, and the guide definitely does it justice.
I've heard amazing things about Singaporean cuisine. It's like a melting pot of flavors, right?
Exactly. You got influences from Chinese, Malay, Indian, Peranakan cultures all blended together.
Wow, that sounds incredible. So what are some of the must-try dishes they mentioned?
Oh, so many. They rave about these places called hawker centers, which are like big open-air food courts with dozens of stalls selling all sorts of delicious and affordable dishes.
Hawker centers? Okay, I've heard of those, but I'm not really sure what to expect. What's it like?
Imagine like a giant outdoor market, but for food. You've got rows and rows of stalls, each specializing in a particular dish or cuisine.
So it's like a street food paradise.
Pretty much. And the best part is it's incredibly cheap. You can get a full meal for just a few dollars.
Okay, that's amazing. And they mentioned some specific dishes, right? Like Hainanese chicken rice.
Oh, yeah. Hainanese chicken rice is like their national dish. It's so simple, but so delicious. And then there's chili crab, laksa, satay, roti prata. The list goes on.
Wow, I'm getting hungry just listening to you.
Ah.
So hawker centers are definitely on my must-do list. But what about those times when you need something a bit more upscale, like for a business dinner or something?
Oh, Singapore's got you covered there, too. They have some fantastic fine dining restaurants, serving everything from modern fusion cuisine to Michelin-starred meals.
Okay, good to know. So we can impress our clients with some fancy dining too.
Absolutely. They specifically mention Rang Mahal, which is known for its amazing Indian cuisine.
Rang Mahal, got it.
Yeah.
But even with all these amazing dining options, sometimes you just need a quick and easy meal, right? Especially when you're on a tight schedule.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that's where those food delivery apps come in handy. GrabFood and Food Panda are super popular in Singapore.
Ah, yes, those are lifesavers. You can just order whatever you want and have it delivered right to your hotel or office.
Exactly. Perfect for those busy days when you don't have time for a sit-down meal.
Okay, so we've got transport, accommodation, and food all figured out. But now let's get to the heart of what makes Singapore unique, the cultural nuances.
Ah, yes. This is where it gets really interesting. Singaporean business etiquette is a fascinating blend of Eastern and Western influences.
I'm ready to be schooled. So what are some of the key things to be aware of?
Well, the guide emphasizes that building relationships is key in Singapore. It's not just about getting down to business, it's about establishing trust and rapport.
Right, that makes sense. And it goes back to what we were talking about earlier with those little cultural faux pas, like, using the wrong hand.
Exactly. Remember that story about the left-hand blunder?
Oh, yeah. Remind me about that way.
So the author of the guide was in a meeting and they innocently used their left hand to pass a document to someone. Turns out, in some cultures, including Singapore, the left hand is considered unclean.
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's a subtle thing, but it can be seen as a sign of disrespect.
So those small details really do matter.
They really do. It's all about showing respect and understanding the local customs.
Makes sense. So what are some other practical tips for navigating these cultural nuances?
Well, punctuality is huge in Singapore. Being on time shows respect for the other person's time.
Okay, so no showing up late to meetings. Got it.
Exactly. And when it comes to attire, it's generally quite formal, although they do mention that short sleeve shirts are acceptable given the climate.
Good to know. Singapore's pretty hot and humid, right?
Oh, yeah. So no need to swelter in a suit jacket if you don't have to.
Perfect. And what about business cards? I know those can be a big deal in some Asian cultures.
Yes, definitely. In Singapore, it's customary to present and receive business cards with both hands.
Okay, both hands. Noted. Anything else?
Take a moment to read the card before putting it away. It shows that you respect the person and their position.
Right, that makes sense. It's those little gestures that can go a long way in building relationships.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of small talk. It's not just filler, it's a way to connect with people, show genuine interest.
Right, it's about building that rapport, that connection.
Exactly. And the guide even suggests learning a few basic phrases in the local languages.
Oh, interesting. So even if you don't speak the language fluently, just making an effort can make a difference.
It really can. It shows that you're willing to go the extra mile to connect with people.
Love it. So it's all about being respectful, punctual, and showing that you're genuinely interested in the culture.
Well said. And that's what makes doing business in Singapore so fascinating. It's a blend of efficiency, tradition, and a genuine openness to the world.
I can't wait to experience it for myself. This guide has definitely given me a lot to think about.
It's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to explore.
Stay tuned because in part 2 of our Singapore Business Travel Deep Dive, we'll be tackling productivity, leisure, and the all-important topic of budgeting. You won't want to miss it. All right, welcome back to our Singapore Deep Dive. In part 1, we talked about, the basics, getting around, finding a place to stay.
Yeah, the essentials.
Exactly. Now it's time to dig a little deeper. And I think one thing our listeners are probably curious about is, okay, we know about the MRT and the buses and ride-hailing, but, when do you choose which one? What's the best mode of transport for different situations?
Oh, that's a great question. It really depends on, your priorities and what you're trying to achieve.
Right, right. So let's break it down a bit. Let's say you're on a tight budget and you need to get across town quickly for a meeting.
Okay, in that scenario, the MRT is probably your best bet. It's super affordable and usually the fastest way to get around, especially if your destination is near an MRT station.
Okay, MRT for speed and affordability.
Yeah.
Got it. But what about when time isn't as much of an issue, but, you want to see a bit more of the city? Would buses be a good option then?
Oh, yeah. Buses are great for that. They're a more, scenic and relaxed way to travel. Plus, they cover a wider area than the MRT, so you can reach some of those, charming little neighborhoods that might be off the beaten path.
That's a good point. So if you have some time to spare and you want to soak up the atmosphere, hop on a bus.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's always the trusty ride-hailing option for when convenience trumps all.
Ah, yes, those ride-hailing apps are lifesavers, especially if you're carrying a lot of stuff or, need to arrive looking fresh and presentable.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And while Grab is, the big player in Singapore, it's always good to check out the other options, too, like Gojek or Tada.
Right. You might find a better deal or a shorter wait time depending on where you are.
Exactly. It never hurts to compare.
Okay, so we've got our transport tactics down. MRT for speed and budget, buses for exploration, and ride-hailing for when you just need to get somewhere hassle-free. Now let's move on to accommodation.
All right, accommodation. And remember, we're not just talking about a place to sleep here. We're talking about an extension of your work-life balance.
Exactly. So how do you choose the right place to stay?
Well, it really comes down to, your preferences and your budget, of course.
Right. In part 1, we briefly touched on, hotels versus service departments. Can we dive into that a bit more?
Sure. So you've got your iconic business hotels, the Marina Bay Sands, the Pan Pacific, those kinds of places.
Those are the luxury options, right?
Exactly. They're all about, that high-end experience. You've got your rooftop pools, your fancy gyms, your swanky bars.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing they're not exactly cheap.
Yeah, they can be quite pricey, especially if you're staying for a while. And you might not even need all those extra amenities if you're mainly focused on work.
Right, that's a good point. So that's where the service departments come in.
Exactly. Service departments are a fantastic option, especially for longer stays or if you prefer a more homey vibe.
So it's like having your own apartment, but with the added convenience of hotel services.
Pretty much. You get your own kitchen, your own laundry facilities, so it's a
Mhm.
bit more like, living like a local.
I like that. And they're usually more budget-friendly than hotels, right?
Hmm.
Especially for those longer trips.
Oh, absolutely. They can be significantly cheaper, especially if you're staying for like a week or more. And having a kitchen means you can save money on eating out all the time.
Right, you can cook some meals at home.
Exactly. So it's like the best of both worlds, the comfort and convenience of a hotel with the flexibility and cost effectiveness of an apartment.
Okay, so we've got our luxury hotels for that immersive, high-end experience, and serviced apartments for a more homey, budget-friendly option.
No.
But regardless of which one you choose, location is still key, right?
Oh, absolutely. Location, 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 as they say. It's all about minimizing travel time and stress.
Right. You don't want to be spending hours commuting back and forth to meetings.
Exactly. So the guide suggests, before you even start looking at specific hotels or apartments, map out where your meetings are and then choose an area that's central to everything.
Okay, so strategic planning is key. But how do you choose between all the different areas? Singapore has so many different neighborhoods, each with its own unique vibe.
That's true. It can be a bit overwhelming, but the guide highlights a few key areas to get you started.
Okay, let's hear them.
So we've already talked about the CBD, which is like the heart of the business district.
Right, if you want to be in the thick of it, that's where you stay.
Exactly. Then there's Orchard Road, which is famous for its, shopping, dining, and entertainment.
Oh, so if you're looking for a bit more excitement, Orchard Road is the place to be.
Yeah, it's a very vibrant and bustling area. And then there's Bugis, which is a bit more off the beaten path.
Boogies, right. You mentioned that one earlier. What's it like?
It's a really cool area with a mix of historical charm and modern vibrancy. It's close to the city hall, has a more local feel, and it's a bit more affordable than Orchard Road.
Sounds like a hidden gem. So basically, there's an area for every taste and budget in Singapore.
Pretty much. And the guide encourages you to do your own research and explore the different areas to find what suits you best.
Perfect. Okay, now let's move on to the topic that I know everyone's been waiting for, the food.
Ah, yes, the food. Singapore is a culinary wonderland, and the guide really captures that.
It seems like food is more than just sustenance in Singapore. It's like
Ye-
a huge part of their culture.
Oh, absolutely. It's a way of life, and it's so diverse. You've got influences from all over Asia, all coming together to create this incredible mix of flavors.
And one of the highlights, as we talked about in part one, is the hawker center experience.
Ah, yes, hawker centers. They're an absolute must try.
They seem like the perfect way to get an authentic taste of Singapore without breaking the bank. But, I have to admit, I'm a little intimidated. Like, how do you even navigate hawker center? There are so many stalls, so many dishes. Where do you even begin?
It can be a bit overwhelming at first, but that's part of the fun. Just wander around, take in the sights and smells, and let your intuition guide you.
Okay, so just go with the flow, basically.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask the vendors for recommendations or, peek at what other people are eating.
Good tip. It's all part of the experience, right?
Exactly. It's a sensory adventure.
Okay, I'm sold. Hawker centers are definitely on my must-do list. But what about when you need something a bit more, upscale? Like for a business dinner with clients.
Oh, yeah. Singapore has some amazing fine dining restaurants as well. You can find everything from, modern fusion to classic French cuisine to Michelin-starred restaurants.
Wow, so there's something for every taste and budget.
Exactly. And the guide specifically mentions Rang Mahal for its incredible Indian food.
Rang Mahal. Got it. But even with all these amazing dining options, let's be real, sometimes you just need something quick and easy, especially when you're on a tight schedule.
Oh, for sure. And that's where those food delivery apps come in handy. GrabFood and Food Panda are lifesavers.
I love those apps. You can literally have any kind of food delivered right to your doorstep.
Exactly. Whether you're craving a quick lunch in your hotel room or, need to fuel up for a late night work session, those apps have got you covered.
So no matter your budget, your time constraints, or your culinary preferences, Singapore has something to satisfy every craving.
Exactly. They've really got it all.
Okay, so we've covered transport, accommodation, and the all-important food scene. Now let's talk about staying productive in this dynamic city.
Ah, yes, productivity. It's a challenge no matter where you are, but especially when you're traveling.
Right. So how do you stay on top of things when you're in a new environment and, there's so many distractions?
Well, the guide talks about the concept of a mobile office, which I think is a great way to think about it.
Mobile office, I like that. What does that mean exactly?
It's about like creating a workspace wherever you are.
Mhm.
So whether you're in your hotel room, a co-working space, or even just a quiet cafe, you have everything you need to get work done.
So it's about being adaptable and creating that productive environment no matter where you are.
Exactly. So think about it. You've got your laptop, a comfortable chair, good lighting, maybe even a portable monitor if you need that extra screen space.
Oh, that's a good tip. I always struggle with working on just my laptop screen.
Yeah, portable monitor can be a lifesaver. And of course, noise-canceling headphones are a must.
Right. To block out all those distractions.
Exactly. Create your own little bubble of focus.
Love it. But what about when you need a change of scenery? Or maybe you're craving a more collaborative environment. This guide mentions co-working spaces.
Oh yeah, co-working spaces are fantastic, especially if you like thrive in that buzzing collaborative atmosphere.
So it's like a shared office space where you can like rent a desk or a private office.
Pretty much. And Singapore has a ton of amazing co-working spaces like WeWork, JustCo, The Work Project. They offer a variety of options from, hot desks to private offices to meeting rooms.
Okay, so there's something for everyone depending on your needs and your budget.
Exactly. And many of these co-working spaces are in really cool central locations, so it's super convenient.
And I bet they're a great place to network, right?
Oh, absolutely. They often have like events and workshops so you can connect with other professionals and, expand your network.
Okay, so we've got our mobile office setup and the co-working space option. But ultimately, wouldn't you say productivity comes down to good old-fashioned time management?
Oh, 100%. Time management is key no matter how amazing your workspace is.
Right. It's all about prioritizing tasks, setting deadlines, staying focused.
Exactly. And the guide suggests a few strategies like using the Eisenhower matrix, batching tasks together, and the Pomodoro technique.
Okay, those all sound like great techniques. But I think it's easy to get so caught up in work, especially when you're on a business trip, that you forget to take breaks.
Oh, yeah, that's so true. And that's why the guide stresses the importance of scheduling and downtime.
Right. It's not just about working nonstop. It's about taking care of yourself so you can be more productive in the long run.
Exactly. It's about recharging your battery so you can come back to work feeling refreshed and energized.
Makes sense. A rested mind is a more productive mind. So let's talk about how to make the most of that downtime and experience the best of what Singapore has to offer.
Okay, now we're talking. Singapore is an incredible city with so much to see and do. And it's not just about sightseeing, it's about like immersing yourself in the culture, trying new things, having those unique experiences that you'll remember forever.
I love that.
Yeah.
So where should we start? What are some of the must-see attractions this guide highlights?
Well, first on the list, and this is an absolute must-see, is Gardens by the Bay. It's like this, futuristic botanical wonderland with these giant super trees and like a cloud forest and a flower dome. It's truly spectacular.
Wow, that sounds incredible. Gardens by the Bay. Okay, that's going straight to the top of my list.
You won't regret it. And for those breathtaking views of the city, you have to go to the Marina Bay Sands observation deck.
Oh, yeah, I've seen pictures of that. The view from up there is insane.
It's unbelievable. And of course, you can't miss the iconic Merlion statue.
Right. The Merlion, a must-have for any Singapore photo album.
Exactly. And if you're interested in history and culture, the National Museum of Singapore is definitely worth checking out.
Okay, so we've got Gardens by the Bay, Marina Bay Sands, the Merlion, the National Museum. That's a good start. But what about those hidden gems, those less touristy spots that like give you a glimpse of the real Singapore?
Oh, I love those. And the guide recommends exploring neighborhoods like Tom Ru with its like cool Art Deco architecture and charming cafes, or Zhochiat, known for its colorful Peranakan shop houses and delicious local food.
Sounds like a great way to get off the beaten path and experience the city like a local.
Exactly. And it's a chance to discover those, little hole-in-the-wall restaurants and shops that you wouldn't find in the tourist areas.
Love it. Okay, so we've got our sightseeing sorted. Now let's talk about after-work activities.
Ah, yes, the fun stuff. Singapore has an amazing nightlife, so there's plenty to keep you entertained.
So what are some of the recommendations?
Well, if you're a foodie, like me, you have to go hawker hopping. The guide specifically recommends Lau Pa Sat, which is like this bustling hawker center that comes alive at night.
Okay, hawker hopping at La Paz Sat. Noted. What else?
And for a more, sophisticated experience with stunning views, check out Singapore's rooftop bars.
Rooftop bars? Oh, yeah, those were always a good time. Any particular recommendations?
The guide mentions One Altitude, which is known for its panoramic views and stylish atmosphere, but there are tons of great rooftop bars to choose from.
Okay, so many options. I'm already feeling overwhelmed, but in a good way.
That's the spirit. And if you're feeling adventurous, you could even check out the night safari, where you can see nocturnal animals in their natural habitat.
Wow, that sounds really cool. I've never been to a night safari before.
It's a unique experience. So yeah, as you can see, there's no shortage of things to do in Singapore after work.
Absolutely. But, I think it's easy to get so caught up in meetings and work commitments that you forget to actually schedule in some leisure time.
Oh, that's so true. It happens to the best of us. But it's important to make time for those activities that help you recharge and, come back to work feeling refreshed.
So it's not just about being lazy, it's about being strategic and taking care of yourself.
Exactly. And the guide suggests, treating your leisure time like any other important appointment. Block it out in your calendar. Make it a priority.
Love that. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground in this part. Transport, accommodation, food, productivity, leisure. I think we've pretty much got it all covered, right?
Almost. There's one crucial aspect we haven't talked about yet, budgeting.
Oh, right. The all-important topic of money. Singapore is an amazing city, but I know it can also be a bit pricey.
Yeah, it's definitely not the cheapest destination. But the good news is the guide has some great tips for managing your expenses.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Mhm.
What are some of the key things to keep in mind when budgeting for a Singapore business trip?
Well, the first thing is to be realistic about costs. The guide gives some estimates in British pounds, but those are just like a starting point. Your actual expenses will depend on, your travel dates, your accommodation choices, your dining preferences, and your overall spending habits.
Right, so it's essential to do your own research and create a budget that's tailored to your specific needs.
Exactly. Don't just rely on those generic estimates. Take some time to research flight prices, accommodation costs, and average meal prices in the areas you'll be visiting.
Makes sense. And factor in a little extra for, those unexpected expenses or those spontaneous moments of indulgence.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Always good to have a little buffer.
Okay, so be realistic, do your research, and factor in some wiggle room. Got it. Now, are there any areas where you can potentially save some money?
Absolutely. Booking your flights and accommodation in advance can often save you a lot of money, especially if you're traveling during peak season.
Okay, so the early bird gets the worm, or in this case, the cheaper flight and hotel.
Pretty much. And consider staying slightly outside the city center where accommodation tends to be more affordable.
Right. You can always hop on the MRT to get to your meetings.
Exactly. And remember those hawker centers we talked about? Not only are they delicious, but they're also super budget friendly.
Oh, yeah. Hawker centers are a win-win authentic food at affordable prices.
Exactly. So, yeah, there are definitely ways to save money if you're smart about it.
Okay, that's good to know. Now, any advice on managing currency exchange?
Oh, yeah, that's an important one. The golden rule is avoid those airport exchange booths. They usually have the worst rates.
Okay, airport exchange booths are a no-go. What are the alternatives?
Well, you could use a travel credit card that doesn't charge foreign transaction fees.
Right, that's a good option, but make sure to check the exchange rates they offer.
Exactly. Some cards have better rates than others. Or you could get a prepaid travel card and load it with Singapore dollars before you go.
Okay, so prepaid travel card is another option. And I guess it's always a good idea to check exchange rates online before you travel, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That way you'll have a benchmark for comparison and you can, make informed decisions about when and where to exchange your money.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this part, from choosing the right transport and accommodation to navigating the culinary scene and staying productive while still enjoying those leisure moments. And we've even tackled the often dreaded topic of budgeting.
Yeah, I think we've given our listeners a pretty comprehensive overview.
I agree. They should be feeling pretty confident about planning their Singapore business trip now.
I hope so. But there's still one more layer we need to explore, that deeper cultural understanding that can really make a difference in your business interactions.
Oh, right. We've talked about, the basics of business etiquette, but I'm curious to learn more about those, deeper cultural nuances. How does that East meets West dynamic play out in real-life business situations?
That's a great question. And that's what we'll be diving into in part 3 of our deep dive.
Stay tuned, folks. Welcome back to our final deep dive into Singapore business travel. I feel like we've covered so much already, from like the MRT to hawker centers to even those super cool rooftop bars.
Oh, yeah, we've definitely given our listeners a solid foundation.
Exactly. But this guide we're using, it hints at something even deeper, right?
Yeah.
Like how experiencing this unique Singaporean blend of East meets West can actually change the way you approach business.
Absolutely. It's not just about, learning the local customs and etiquette. It's about gaining a whole new perspective.
Okay, I'm all ears. So how does this East meets West dynamic actually like play out in real life business situations?
Well, you have to remember that Singapore is this incredible fusion of ancient traditions and cutting edge modernity.
Right, it's a global financial hub, but still very much rooted in Asian values.
Exactly. So you might find that business meetings are a little bit different than what you're used to back home.
In what way?
Well, there's much stronger emphasis on building relationships and trust.
So it's not just about, getting straight down to business and closing the deal as quickly as possible.
Right. It's about taking the time to get to know people, to understand their perspectives, to build that rapport.
So those like initial small talk sessions, the exchanging of business cards with both hands, those aren't just formalities.
Not at all. They're essential parts of the process.
It's about laying the groundwork for a long-term relationship.
Exactly. And you'll probably notice that decision-making processes are more consensus-driven as well.
Meaning,
It's not just about one person calling all the shots.
that's what's more collaborative.
Exactly. It's about involving multiple stakeholders, getting everyone's input, and making sure everyone feels heard and respected.
Which probably means that things move a little slower.
It can, yes, but that doesn't mean it's inefficient.
I guess it's about like quality over speed.
That's a good way to put it. Taking the time to do things properly, to build those strong relationships, can actually lead to more sustainable and successful outcomes in the long run.
It's like that saying, slow and steady wins the race.
Exactly. And here's another interesting thing to keep in mind. Nonverbal communication is huge in Singapore.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just about what people say, it's about how they say it.
Right. And even what they don't say.
So you really have to pay attention to those subtle cues, like body language and facial expressions.
Absolutely. It's all part of understanding the context and the unspoken messages.
It's like a whole other language you have to learn.
In a way, yes. But it's a fascinating challenge, and it can really enhance your communication skills, not just in Singapore, but anywhere in the world.
It's like developing this like cultural intelligence,
Exactly. The ability to understand and navigate different cultural contexts.
which is such a valuable skill in today's globalized world.
Oh, absolutely. It can really open doors and help you build stronger relationships, both personally and professionally.
Okay, so for our listeners who are like about to embark on their Singapore business adventure, what's the key takeaway here?
Be open to learning and adapting. Don't be afraid to step outside your comfort zone, observe the nuances of the culture, and really engage with the people you meet.
And remember, even if you like make a few cultural faux pas along the way, don't sweat it. Most people will appreciate the effort.
Exactly. It's all about showing respect and a willingness to learn.
Okay, so be open, be respectful, and most importantly, have fun.
Yeah, that's the key.
Singapore is an amazing city with so much to offer, both in terms of business opportunities and cultural experiences.
It's truly a unique place.
So embrace the journey, savor those delicious hawker meals, and who knows, you might even come back with a whole new perspective on doing business.
And on life in general.
That's a great point. Well, folks, that wraps up our deep dive into Singapore business travel. We hope you've enjoyed the journey and learned some valuable insights along the way.
Safe travels, everyone.
And until next time, happy exploring.